Welcome, my friends, to this week's captivating episode of Motivational Moments with Maria. And I just wanted to give you some updates. I have been working furiously over the last couple of months on introducing my podcast in Spanish because I do have a large following in the Hispanic community. So I decided to make it a little bit easier. So I've been busy doing that, and perhaps I may have ignored some of my responsibilities here to all of you. So my apologies. Please forgive me. Now, today we're back, and I'm so thrilled with today's guest. We are going to introduce a gentleman which is going to blow your socks off. His name, Ryan Chute, the Wizard of Ads. Yes, the Wizard of Ads. Now, Ryan, he is a trusted guide in the realm of exponential profitable growth. Now, he has expertise in unconventional strategies. And what he does is he empowers small service businesses to transform their businesses into big brands at Wizard of Ads. Now, he is known for uncovering secret formulas and lost first principles. And I'll let him talk to you about that. Now, he really helps businesses accelerate their growth and become household names. How does he do it? We're going to find out. Now, he does great articles, and he has some great insights on marketing, advertising, and mindset. So he challenges traditional marketing approaches. And what I love about him is he says, hey, listen, I want you to understand that you need to be distinctive, not just different. Distinctive, not just different. And he helps reduce friction in businesses. And that sets him apart as the frictionless CEO. And he invites all of us, including myself, to join him on a journey of exploration and discovery. So if you're looking to negotiate like a pro in the home services industry, craft a mission that truly aligns with your team and your vision, or unlocking the keys to becoming a super powerful brand, then Ryan Chute is the rogue wizard you want by your side. So without further ado, let's welcome the Wizard of Ads, Mr. Ryan Chute. Ryan, welcome to the show. I am so thrilled that you are here with us today to talk about your career, what you do for businesses, how you market businesses, and how you help with branding. And I'm really curious because you mentioned something about the first principle, and I'm really interested in what you mean by that, honestly. But
Yeah,
before you do that, tell us a little bit about you and how you landed to become the Wizard of Ads.
it was like every overnight success. It was a good solid 20, 30 years in the making. And um, as we all do, we go through this world in our lives, this experiences that get us to where we are today. And a lot of the things that I needed when I was a young man and a young leader, inexperienced and a terrible leader in a lot of ways. Um, I try to exemplify today, and I grew up in retail. Yeah, it was a retail gulag. It was an absolute grind of toxic workplace and weaponized fear, shame, and guilt, and all of the things that you would expect to see in a performance-based atmosphere that's not overly happy or appreciative of all the time of the things that you have in front of you. So I grind through that, and in 2015, I become a student at the Wizard Academy, and the Wizard, it's in fact where I'm sitting here right now. And um, at the Wizard Academy, I met a man named Roy H. Williams who wrote the famous trilogy Wizard of Ads, and he was teaching about communication in a way that nobody teaches. So much so that people from Apple and Harvard and Facebook and Chick-fil-A are often in the classes. I've sat beside all of those companies and the fine folks that have been with them over the years, and it's approaching it from a way that the brain works. And instead of us trying to have people fit in our box like the golden rule tells us,
Mm-hmm.
Instead, we've kind of played a bit more of the platinum rule, where we're really trying to get people to, we're trying to appeal to people in the way that they wish to be appealed to, as opposed to doing it our way, the way that we would prefer to be treated, right? So,
And I love that. I am a big platinum rule person,
yeah.
right? And one of the things that I always I look at, Ryan, is when I'm working with people, is I always ask myself, who do I need to become in order to support this person?
Mm.
So it's not only just the platinum. I take, I said, I have to become the person they need me to become for whatever encounter I'm having with them. And that
Mm.
requires really listening and communicating, as you say, on a different level, right?
Yeah. Well, and it did. And coming from a new perspective, when I got to the Wizard Academy, I was like, I know what I'm talking about. I know what I'm doing. I made lots of money, and I made lots more for other people. And what hit me like a ton of bricks was I uh, I knew that I knew that um, brand oriented communication and empathetic communication was a thing, but it almost felt like it was inaccessible. Like it wasn't something that was I was going to be able to participate in, because I grew up in that real transactional, friction filled world of sales. And what I came to realize was, no, in fact, this is an opportunity for everyone, from a little tiny business, a family, and even a member in the community. And that's a big deal. And that was a huge inflection point for me. It was a massive change in my perspective, in realizing that I didn't have to work so hard, grind so hard, and feel so exhausted in trying to deal with this world of business and entrepreneurship. Um, that was huge. And the Wizard Academy was really the first place that really opened my eyes to a new way of thinking, and a new opportunity with hope, and the chance that I could actually do this thing. So I just kept on going to classes, going over and over and
Okay.
over, all the different
Oh,
things.
all the different classes. So tell me what kind of things happen at the Wizard Academy.
There's potions and elixirs. There's wands. There's robes. There's a lot of music. Occasional chanting. It's definitely probably not a cult. It's almost probably certainly not a cult. I'm suggesting that it's definitely probably not a cult. Uh, I kid. I
Okay,
just
so I'm gonna go to bippity bippity bop.
exactly, exactly. A lot of people kind of like look at it and go, like, what is this? Like, there's like the 16th century Spanish tower that we learn these skills in, and there's all kinds of crazy statues around, and all of these different stories. And what we're doing is just allowing ourselves to dip into the subconscious, into the storytelling, into the right side of the brain, into the abstract and the imagination, and just explore both the art and the science that is communication, and how they line up with the laws of nature and first principles, and all of the things that really do connect us through time, not just the tactical elements that get the job done in the moment, like Google pay per click. Those are relevant in so much as that's what's in front of us right now, but not overly relevant in the message that we create, which is far more important than the channel that we put it on.
Okay, great. Now you just mentioned it again. First principle.
Yeah.
Help us understand first principle.
It's about reducing things down to the most rudimentary parts, right? What makes up communication? What makes up persuasion? What makes up manipulation? What are the things that are both psychological, um, biological, neurological, that are having us do the things that we do, act in the way that we act, behave in the way that we behave? And it really comes down to understand, when you understand the individual ingredients, you can bake a better cake.
So you're taking it down to the lowest common denominator. Is that what you're doing?
That's it. Yeah. And then rebuilding it in a way that is more persuasive, that is avoiding manipulation, that is reducing friction, that is adding flavor that we wouldn't have otherwise expected, reducing the weight of friction, of tension, um, of frankly the rust. That can build up and create this grip that we don't need, or sometimes even leveraging friction to our advantage, um, so that we can activate something, so we can spark a new thing.
So you're looking at, so I'm taking this down, as you said, at the rudimentary level, but now I'm looking at new ways in which to raise a different
Mhm.
awareness. I'm looking at how can I how can I ignite someone to think a little differently, to
Yeah.
handle a situation differently. I mean, that's not easy in business, is it? Because
Yeah.
we, over the years, hundreds and hundreds of years, have been stifled in corporate cultures and the business mindset. And so what you're talking about is very progressive, very forward thinking, right? And a lot of people aren't prepared for that. How do you introduce this concept to businesses?
Usually with a fire hose on a teacup. Um, it's it's very often my nature to just inundate people with a barrage of really, really, really fascinating things to me, because I really can't orient it around anything other than what I'm really, really excited about. And and then continuing to walk down and revisit those rabbit holes from different angles of approach to be able to start tugging out an interesting conversation. Um, and curiosity, right? The root of all of this ends up being this notion of curiosity, and ultimately, when you start seeing the correlation between the basic foundations of communication and the laws of nature, you start to realize there are deeply profound truths in this universe that we can't escape from. So why not just understand them enough that we can build these simple frameworks, and like they talk about simple machines. It's the same kind of concept for your brains, um, to just cope with life, right? I mean, we're coping beasts. We're built in a model of stress, right? Our brains are built around stress. We are
Fight
born
or flight.
fight or flight, which comes from that root chemical, that cortisol, that stressor.
Hmm.
And this bakes into all kinds of other nerdy science words like neuroception, and always kind of being ever vigilant of the 4 out of 5 major emotions that we're born with are negative in nature, not because
Hmm.
we're being negative beasts, but because we're trying to survive, right?
Right,
So
right.
if we accept that the universe fundamentally is trying to survive, then let's meet people where they're at and bring them up to something more abundant. We're never going to inspire them into this new world, because most of the time people look at it and say you're full of nonsense. You're just making stuff up. That sounds great for you, old white dudes, but for us normal folk out in the world who are doing a hard day's work and dealing with the nonsense of the universe around us, and what it imposes upon us and limits us from, we don't have time for that. Right? we
Hmm.
we have
Hmm.
we have to go survive now.
You don't understand.
Mm,
You don't understand my world. You don't
mm,
understand the challenges that I face.
yeah.
So why would I look at a different concept? Now, why
Mhm.
would somebody be open to considering your thoughts and ideas?
Because they want to increase their identity, right? And when I say increase identity, the number one driver in this universe for the human spirit, with our prefrontal cortex and our big giant imagination and our logic center of our brain, is identity, and elevating our identity, not just within the universe, the greater universe that we're speaking about, the community that we're in, and we all don't need to be the president of the United States. What we want to
Mm,
be is relevant to our loved ones. we want to know that our self-worth is
Hmm.
valuable, that we feel that we're contributing to this universe, and it's in your own definition of that, whatever that is. So
Whatever that is for you.
right, exactly. So it's me and myself, so the internal self and the individuals I love and care about in my closest proximity, and then the greater tribes that are surrounding me that I care about the opinion of. So we're always trying to drive to identity, be it that we're a smart buyer or that we're um, a stylish individual, that we have worth. That's why people buy Louis Vuitton. There's more aspirational people that will buy luxury goods than rich people, right? And it's because they're looking to signal to the world that they have value, right?
Come see me.
That's it. And
Look at me.
yeah,
And most
recognize,
people, yeah, you're right. Recognize, see me, see me,
right,
see me, see me. And
right,
this in this world of selfies and Instagram, all of the social media, it's like, look at me, look at me, look at me.
right.
Right?
This is
Just
equally the
no, go ahead, keep going.
well, something that really struck me 2 days ago when I was on set, as the producer. I was had the opportunity to listen to some former military guys' stories and their journeys through getting out of the military and struggling with suicide. And I believe the stat that they said was every 87 minutes, a veteran, just a veteran, kills themselves of suicide, and that's a terrifyingly high number. And to that end, it really struck home to me that identity works in both directions, right? When these guys were telling their stories and they were talking about, I felt like the world would be better off without me, that my kids would be better off without me, that the pain would go away, right? That was a really emotional moment for sure, but also a deep recognition of how important identity is in both directions, and that it's really our duty as leaders, as human beings, as just good Samaritans of this universe, not just our towns or communities, but of this whole space that we interact with, to bring positivity into the world, which is relevant to your brand, your business, your wife, your kids, and that guy who's been thinking about suicide, that really just needs someone to love him and let him know that
Hmm.
people do care about him, and that he does matter, and not just him's but hers, right? We
Hmm.
interviewed a soldier from the military who was a part of this group called Aerial Recovery. That's the movie that we're going to be writing about, and or sorry, doing a documentary about. And it's these are powerful stories, and they need to get out there, so that we do see a lot less um, veteran suicide, and we see it.
Right. And you mentioned this, I'm sorry, but you mentioned this this documentary, and
Mm,
I was going to ask you about the documentary because you were, and I was present to see the screening of the documentary, which was very, very moving. And I don't know if this is an add-on, an additional movie that you're working on, or was this the documentary that we saw in Nashville recently? Because you were
it's
an
a
executive producer with that.
Yeah, we was an executive producer for Creative Vets, and they're healing veterans through music and other artistic outlets. This is a new movie, again from their headquarters in Nashville. We ended up going down and spending time with them on the firing range, and hanging out with them, and talking with them for the day a couple days ago. And this is a new movie that's going to be about an organization that they developed called Aerial Recovery, where they go in and they help people who are in weather-torn areas. A great hurricane's gone through, and they're able to drop off supplies and serve the people quickly with quick response teams. They also
Hmm.
go after human trafficking people. So
Okay.
these people are elite of elite private service guys who are going in self-funded, and saving large groups of children who are being trafficked, very often through South America, but a shocking amount of kids who get trafficked through America. Like,
And that to me, that just, breaks my heart. It just does. And when
it's
I see
terrifying.
something like that, I'm to the point where I can't even watch a movie where there's child trafficking going on,
Yeah.
and it just it really it it it, it hurts my heart to no end. And I appreciate that. And how did you get involved in the creative vets and also this aerial recovery? Because I know how important it is for a society to have people that jump in. Because I know my as I call him, my old white guy, he was a first responder during many of the hurricanes. So jumping in and experiencing that kind of tragedy is tough. But how did you get involved in that?
Well, in my early days, as a late teens, early 20s, I was in the Canadian Reserves and had experience with the military, and gave me um, the kind of the lifelong dedication towards veterans and military guys and girls who are are are, are putting themselves out there, serving people at the highest levels, and that carried forward with the people that I prefer to serve today, in business with essential home services, people who are helpers, who are putting themselves in harm's way, who are demonstrating a disproportionate level of value by doing something that's difficult, that other people aren't often willing to do. Um, and all of this just kind of ties together with, a veteran is an amazing person to work in the essential home services space because they have the grit, they have the resilience, they have the durability, and the mindset to get the job done, to get, things like air conditioners used to be a luxury. People die too often from heat waves unnecessarily. It's just, there's people who are dying from poor water quality, and people who don't have electricity. And these fundamentals of the American infrastructure are absolutely job one essential for us to have a thriving, durable community and country. And I think that there's going to be a huge, huge, huge renaissance for the essential services, in the coming years. So that ties
I
into the
think there's
military.
always a need for essential services.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I
So
mean, it's
the same guys who do essential services are the same guys who are military guys. And from that whole point of identity, not everyone's going to be able to go out and do, human trafficking runs, and they don't, like, the knees are gone or whatever the case might be. Those are people who can still serve with such a proud identity of home services, of plumbers, electricians, and HVAC technicians that build the infrastructure and protect and maintain the infrastructure of our country with the same level of pride that they had when they had to do hard stuff and stuff that's messed them up, and um, stuff that they had to deal with, and their families had to deal
Mhm.
with. Um,
Yeah.
Going forward. So there's just a beautiful synergy of all of these things together, and that's why I decided to step in and tell and approach storytelling not just from advertising, which is what we do for our companies, but telling stories in a way that draws emotion and tugs at the heart and recognizes the things that persuade people into action, into behaviors. Um, these are lessons for me. These are things that I learn from, and I'm able to be a better person for my clients and my community and friends and family and myself.
hmm And it all comes back to the word that you said, identity. Because when you
Yeah.
have a purpose, if you will, and you're supporting all of these vets, and you give them a sense of purpose, and so that impacts their identity,
Yeah.
right? And so and you said it's both ways,
That's it.
right?
That's
It's
it.
both
And
ways.
all I can do is show them a path of purpose, and just like me with the Wizard of Ads, coming from a transactional world and going into a relational world, it's the same thing with the vets. It's like you're coming out of this military mindset, this regiment, this durability, this doing something that dramatically matters. And eh, the thing I kept on hearing over and over again was I felt guilty because I don't feel like I did enough. Well, there's
Mhm.
many ways to do enough in this universe, and picking up a gun and taking care of bad guys is one thing. Yes, it is absolutely essential, and a piece of the fabric of the world we live in. But there's also enough when it comes to the peacetime operations that um, provide for children and the elderly and for your friends and family and neighbors, to keep them healthy and safe with water and air and warmth and coolness and electricity. Um, we just have to be willing to be open to redefining what our value proposition is within our purpose. So I show the light of purpose, and they're the ones who choose the purpose, right?
Hmm. You kind of show the way and say, hey, here's how we can impact your life in a very
Right.
positive way, right? In a very positive way. And
Yep.
and what I love about what you're doing is you're doing it from the heart, which is you are doing it from the heart, Ryan, right?
Yeah, it's a purpose for me at this stage, and I'm a blessed person to be in the position that I am, to be able to think this way and work on these types of things, to be able to to elevate others in an industry and from another place in their lives to do better for the blue collar trades and the
Hmm.
essential
Hmm.
services and for veterans. It's a nice fit.
It's a nice fit, but I want to ask you about that essential services because you're embarking on a building a new, as I say, new enterprise, if you will, specifically around essential services,
Yeah.
right? Right.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, there's a fairly, sophisticated structure here, but it boils down to one big thing. I've been very frustrated in the last 8, 9 years seeing how the distribution of wealth has come and gone for um, home service contractors in this industry. There's a lot of very frustrated technicians out in the universe. There's a lot of frustrated contractors who've sold their businesses and then not seen the fruits of their labors as those sales kind of fell apart after the fact in different ways. Um, that there's this concentrated, limited wealth that's going to large companies like private equity and investment bankers, um, which isn't going to frontline Main Street. Look, at the end of the day, the people who do most of the work, the hard work, the real rough work, are the technicians, the plumbers, the electricians, the HVAC technicians who are slugging it out every day. And then the really brave contractors who take the risks to put together a culture and a community within a business to build a brand that matters and does great work. And in fairness makes respectable money because of the efficiency of their business and the value that they deliver. Well, I see a world where those three brands, those three things could be developed into a very, very significant brand across America, where we could not only make at least 1,000 people multimillionaires who are contractors who've built small businesses and then go to that whole new level, but we can also help 10,000, and I'm being just ultra conservative in these numbers, but 10,000 people that are currently underprivileged and put them into the trades and help them earn in excess of six figures every single year, year in, year out, from places of absolute subsistence and nothing to thriving. And because here's what I know. Those people are going to support their communities, their family, their friends, their loved ones, and they're going to be the next generation of um, highly respected community members and citizens that service at the highest levels and keep our infrastructure safe.
Right. And they always pour back into their local communities. That's what I really they do. You can see it in every little city across
Yep.
America. The
Yep.
people that are out there, it is the HVAC people, the plumbers. They're sponsoring events. They're sponsoring kids events. They
Yep.
do try to pour back into the community.
They
So
do.
kudos
Yeah.
to you. Kudos to you. I love it. I love it, and I can hardly wait to see how that pans out because I know you're going to be rolling this out soon. In addition to everything else you have going on,
Yeah,
right?
well,
You're gonna,
it all beautifully fits together, which is nice because one informs the other, and that just makes me better at the job that I'm paid for, which is marketing. Um,
Mhm.
Ultimately, we the system already exists. We just need to keep it simple and go to work and get the job done in a way that people are most inclined to choose you over the competition. And
Hmm.
there's a lot of good competition out there. There's unfortunately an awful lot of bad competition out there as well, who are um, taking advantage of coworkers and communities and employees at a way that just doesn't sit right with me.
And I notice in some of the research that I've done on you, and just because I know you, as you said, I want you to be distinctive versus
Yeah,
different.
yeah,
Uh, t-
yeah.
Distinctive. How does one become distinctive?
Well, the idea, the notion comes from a gentleman named Byron Sharp out of Australia, who's a world-class researcher in the marketing and branding world. And um, in his book, How Brands Grow, what he's talking about is this notion of different. I'm different because our guys just do a better job, right? You've just said what everyone says. You're different, okay?
Yes.
Just because you say you're different doesn't make you different. You're like, um, you know, the notion that you're dressing with black hair and black clothes and everything else to be different from the mainstream, just like all the
Hmm.
other kids wearing black clothes and black hair being different from that. So you're not different, right? You're just another one of the kids that are trying to disappear or get recognized for the weirdness. There's a huge difference between being cute and clever and being campaignable. A campaignable idea is memorable. You get retention and recall. So there is a true science to how you get remembered as a brand, as a person, how you elevate your identity. When you're distinctive, you're saying things that in 2015 I wouldn't have understood, right?
Mm.
I was transactional back then, and I understood I can say all the things that everyone else says, and I can say it with vigor and enthusiasm and confidence, and get people to come in and do the thing that I'm looking for them to do. But that was brute force. But if I had something truly distinctive to offer them, well, now I'm changing the rules of the game. Now I'm elevating or shifting the value proposition, and when I can do that with values, and I can do that over time because trust takes time and
Yes,
values
it
don't
does.
values don't matter when I run my ad. Values matter when the customer needs what I sell, right? Equally as much, values matter when something goes wrong with the thing I sold or the way I sold it, and I need to stand up and do something. I need to self-impose a consequence, right? Value only comes from sacrifice. Value only comes from sacrifice. You have to sacrifice something for the benefit of something else for it to be valuable. Otherwise, you're doing all the same things that everyone else is doing. And that's why I so boldly and cheekily say that beliefs are worthless. Just like my dear friend Manly Miller, minister New Orleans, who said, Ryan, your values are worthless. And I was like, all right, let's go. What do we got to talk about now? He goes, they're worthless because they're interchangeable. There is no consequence to your beliefs. And let me give you an example. There's a profound truth that justice is a worthwhile thing. Equally as much a profound truth is that mercy is a worthwhile thing in this universe. But it really depends on which side of the table you're sitting on. The accused murderer wants mercy and the victim's family wants justice,
Wants
but
justice.
right? But what happens when the victim's family murders the murderer? Now they want mercy, right? The tables have turned and now
It-
things are different. And it's when you choose to do the hard thing, when the accused wants justice and the victim's family wants mercy, those are the moments in life that we have emotion, that we have these sparks that go, whoa, holy cow. And in those moments, you're showing distinction, not difference. You're showing distinction, and that's how you get distinct. Is choose a North Star and be willing to die on that hill.
Right. I, I
Right.
I I kind of do it this. I hear what you're saying, and I always say everyone's going west. I want you to turn around and go east
Hmm.
because as you say, the last mile is fewer people on that mile, right? They're
Much
not
fewer.
willing to go.
Yeah.
Much fewer people on the mile. So I always go, everyone's going east. Don't be a sheeple. Don't
Yeah.
be following what the people are doing. And it's just like me. I unapologetically say I am wild and crazy, have a ton of energy, and I no longer apologize for it. That's me, you
Hmm.
know? It's just
Hmm.
who I am. So be distinctive, but never give up who you are. And not that, but and never give up who you truly are. I mean,
Well, and
that's how
that's
you're distinctive.
you're distinctive, and you notice when you said that, Maria, you're talking about the thing that would get noticed, right? If if all you're seeing is a bunch of yellow headlights coming at you in a stream of headlights in a time lapse
Hmm.
thing, and then you see a set of red lights going the other direction, that's the thing you notice,
That's the thing I notice. And that's, I'm the red light going the other way. And
right?
I
And that,
love that. And I love that when you said that because I've always believed that. And people look at me like I'm crazy. And I go, yes, who wants to be normal? Who wants to be mediocre? Who wants that?
well, 99.9% of the planet wants that,
It's the
right?
acceptance because people
Right?
want to be accepted. They want to look good and be right.
Yeah, they
Right.
want
And
to
it's
fit
like,
in and keep up with the Joneses. Their job,
exactly.
their job is to desperately hang on to the middle
Oh,
section of Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of need belonging. They want to
yes.
get themselves out of subsistence and security, the basics of life, the hard stuff in life, which is where most of us live, right? Most of the time, it doesn't matter how much money you make, it matters how you think every day, right?
Hmm.
And the choice to step into thriving, abundant mindset is a choice that has to be practiced all the time.
All
Um,
the time, every day, every day, every day. I'm so glad you're reinforcing, what I'm gonna say it is one of my beliefs, but it is that you need to have that constant reinforcement every single day because we have
yeah,
all of this negativity, this chaos and drama coming at us
right.
all the time. And you
Yeah,
have to be able to filter that out and say, no, this is my path and I'm
yeah,
not going to. And my husband always says, never give up.
yeah.
You're going to keep going. Never give up.
That
Just
grit
keep
and
going your path
resilience. Yeah.
and
Grit.
resilience. Oh, yes.
This is the number one thing that the military looks for when you go through Navy SEAL training, like um, in the movie Hero, when you watch
Hmm.
Hero, which is one of the things that I was blessed to be a producer on. Um, he was going through Navy SEAL training, and he literally got to the very last end of it and got pneumonia and like passed out.
Oh.
And he wakes up in the hospital, and they're like, "You're in. You just have to do it all again, because you didn't actually make it." And he's like, and he did it again, and he
And
passed.
he did it again.
Right. But it was because he was willing to not quit. That
Right.
is everything. It's not how big you are, how smart you are. It's how durable you are and resilient you are to the process. It's not about quitting. And that's the true virtue in these things. That's the same virtue in home services. That's the same virtue as an entrepreneur or as a salesperson. Is like, no, I
Mhm.
don't want your thing, and you're like, oh, okay, I guess I'm bye. It's like that's you're not going to be
You're
a
going
good
to get a
salesperson.
hundred no's. You're going to get a
Yeah.
hundred no's before you get a
Yep.
yes. And
Right.
I know that you were in real estate too, and you know that as well. You're out
Yeah.
in real estate. You're going to get a hundred no's before you get a yes, and you have to be able to handle that and get up that day because there are going to be disappointments. There's going to be distractions. There's going
Hmm.
to be discouragement, and there's
Yep.
going to be drama, and you have
Yep.
to rise above that every
Hmm.
single day. That's what I
Every
love
day.
about what you're talking about is really also our our life's personal growth and continued development. Because
Right.
as you said, back in 2015, you knew you had to do something different. What was it?
Yeah.
You had to find out who you are. You had to learn, okay, what is important to me? Is there a different way to do this? And I
Mm.
honor you for taking that journey, taking the journey and connecting with a whole different group of people and
Yeah.
educating yourself. And that is what a large percent of the population will not do. As you said, they're into being comfortable, they're into being complacent.
But it's yeah, I'll tell you, psychologically speaking, and we talk about this in selling and marketing all the time, which
Hmm.
is the why we market the way we market, which sounds so different than what an ad sounds like
Hmm.
when the radio station writes it for you for free. And it's people really, really deeply struggle to do things that they have not yet seen themselves do in their imagination, right? So our job is to get past Broca's area, the bouncer in the left side of the brain saying, oh, whoa, 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 the predictable down the left alley in the dark,
Right.
right? The new, interesting, and different, you get to go in the imagination and start living it up in the dance scene in there, and where all the color and the music and the abstract lives. There's no room for words in the imagination. The right side of the brain has no facility for words. All of that comes from the left side, right? So while we're contemplating and organizing it and putting it out into the universe like I am right now, this side of the brain is going on an adventure, right? But only on the neat adventures. If it's a boring adventure, you're out,
You're
right?
done. You're done.
Right?
But that's
So
what I love about the power of visualization,
yeah,
because you are tapping into your imagination. You are tapping
mhm,
into the possibilities. And
yeah.
visualization is such a powerful tool.
It's a
And
hugely powerful tool. Yeah,
if you allow yourself to really get grounded, center yourself, close your eyes, and you're talking about it. My imagination is going all over the place right now. But it is so true, Ryan,
yeah,
that you can create the most colorful place in the world in that imagination, and then you can go create it.
that's
Now,
it.
can't we? Mhm.
Well, and here's the big blocker in sales. Sales. It's like I need to go think about it. Boom.
Oh,
What they're saying is, right? They're not saying I need to go think about it. What they're saying is you haven't made me feel right about it. And until you make me feel right about it, the value
hmm,
proposition, the what's in it for me, the
right.
return on my not my return on my investment, but my return on identity,
Hmm.
right? I'm not buying what you're selling. The left brain will never justify a purchase that has not yet been reconciled and approved in the heart, which is the right
Hmm.
side of the brain. So get the heart, and the brain will follow. It has no choice.
It,
So
it, it must.
salespeople get salespeople get real wrapped up on being salesy when what
Oh
they
my
really
God.
need to
I
be
always,
doing
I
is
taught sales for many years too. I was like, selling is
yeah,
not telling. Really? It
yeah,
is not telling. Well, our
no,
job is to ask a series of questions and allow your clients to come up with the best solution for themselves and their family at any given time. Just,
that's it.
the Socratic method, ask a lot of questions, become a master, become a wizard of
Yeah,
questions, right?
yes.
Because a wizard of questions. So I know that you have to, you've got a lot going on, so I won't hold you much longer, but what do you think, or what do you feel has been your greatest accomplishment thus far as you transitioned from being in retail to where you are today?
Um, I think one of my greatest accomplishments, is the birth of my son and seeing him grow and become the little boy that he is now. But to get to the nuts and bolts of the business side, I like to think that I'm a better human being for getting past what I used to mimic and mirror and behave like as a bad boss, doing what I saw to be right. Um, and getting past being a disproportionately good manager and actually finding my place in leadership. Now, I promise you, I'm not the ultimate leader that I hope and wish to be. I still struggle in survival moments, and I still struggle to let other people in and to help me. But I work really hard at um, giving myself permission to be vulnerable, to say things that I would normally bottle up, to
Hmm.
to recognize a friction and do something about it, even when it's hard for me. Um, and making lots of money is one thing, and I'll not worry about that ever again. But really, it's much more about what can I do next. And I know that we have this big monster that I just I see it. It's just so crystal clear to me that this is a path that so many people want, need, and that we actually have the means to pull off at this point in time. Not just me alone, but we can go as a collective together. And
Hmm. Hmm.
that's really the epitome of tribal leadership. We can all be super successful right up to the top edge of belonging in Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Hmm.
And what that is the epitome of is that I am really doing great in comparison to you. The fundamental shift that has to happen to go from I'm great to we're great
You're great.
can only happen as a group. It can only
Correct.
happen when there's a bunch of us that are saying that, and then coming back down into survival mode and bringing other people up with us for us all to be great. And there's a monster power there that we have to all kind of agree to a definition of terms, right?
Hmm.
And and and
Yes.
and a definition of words equally as much. But when you make it super simple and crystal clear on what the path is to get to this next thing that we're going to do, we're going to change the world.
Hmm.
And
And
we're
we
going to,
already are, and you already are. And I know that because of the tribe that we belong to, the people that we're connected with, the absolute energy that everyone is bringing. And we have a responsibility. I always say it's just in that, just like the song "Humble and Kind." Always be humble and kind. And when you get to where you've gotten to, you need to turn around and make sure that you are bringing everyone else with you and lifting them up to be the next generation of great, great leaders. And I
well,
appreciate that.
I think everyone is a leader. It's everyone has that in them. Now, are they in the place in their life where they can accept that? No, absolutely
Mm,
not. But everyone has the ability to be a leader, and not by title or authority, but by mindset, right? Leadership comes from an abundance mindset, from a growth
correct.
mindset, from a curiosity mindset, from a
Hmm.
position of helping others. The best leaders in the whole wide world are the people who aren't necessarily leading anyone, but they're the guy who's helping, right? He's the
Hmm.
the
Right.
Fred Rogers helper, right?
Right. And all you're doing is we just have to make sure that we continue to role model that behavior. We are role models.
Right.
And who we have to ask ourselves every day. And I ask this of myself every day. Who needs me on my A game? Who do I need to reach out to today that I can help every day? Who needs me on my A game, and who can I reach out and help today? And that
Right.
is so important because you're going to make an impact. And even, I'm a little more seasoned than you. However, 40 years ago, when I was working with some of my people in my corporate days, it was like, to this day, I will hear them say, you know what? I still remember what you said to me. I learned something. And I would always ask, how would Maria have handled that? And that to
Mm,
me is impact and influence that
yeah,
you've
so much.
made on someone. And you have to continue to do that, regardless of all the noise that goes on. So I honor you. And I'm just really grateful that you have come into our world because there's so much that you have to offer to people, whether you're in a small business, a contracting business, yeah, I mean, to the entrepreneurial world and the solopreneurs, you have so much, so many gifts to share. And
Mhm.
in those gifts, you will teach people more than they have ever even thought possible, right?
If
So,
I can
how,
touch a
go
soul
ahead.
and
Yeah.
have them encouraged and have hope and faith that they're going to make a difference by just going after it, um, then I've done what I need to do.
Then you've done what you need to do. And you know what's really interesting, Ryan? People ask me all the time, are you making any money on this thing that you're doing, this podcast, this, that? And I said, it's not, that's not what it's about for me. It's about making an impact to as many people as I can and to send out positive energy, positive enthusiasm, positive mindset, abundant mindset. Because if you don't, you're coming from scarcity. And once we have a
Right.
scarcity mindset, what happens? We attract
Mm,
scarcity. So
mhm.
coming from the abundant place in life, I'm so that. Now, what are your hopes for what the future holds for you?
For the future that holds for me, that we can look back a decade from now and say that we built something that circumvented the current wealth generating greed oriented mechanism of short term growth models and built a durable, lasting infrastructure for the home services to thrive at a level they've never thrived at before.
Beautiful. Now, for all you business owners and entrepreneurs and solopreneurs out there and home services people, How do they get a hold of you, Ryan?
The two easiest ways are on my socials at Wizard Ryan Shoot, or you can visit me on my website at ryanchute.com where I kind of link out to everything that I do.
I love that. I love that. I cannot tell you how grateful I am that you joined us today. I love your message. I love what you're doing. You're doing all of this work with the vets and aerial recovery and producing shows here and there. And I'm just so glad you came into the Lisa Nichols world when we became executive producers together and masterminding together,
Yeah.
because I've learned so much from you. I just have. And I love the time that we get to spend together, even at Stitch, seeing your little smile on your face. So thank
You and
you
me
so
both.
much for your time. So much
Thank you.
appreciated. And we will see you soon, I'm sure. Thanks
Uh,
again.
Grateful.
And thanks
Thanks,
again,
Maria.
my folks, for joining me today. And now remember, you know someone that needs to hear some of the messages that we talked about today. So go ahead and share it with your friends. And as always, you know I'm going to say, stay focused, stay positive, have fun. And no matter what you choose to be, do, or have, do it with passion. And I will see you all soon.